having put on some of your best suits and dresses, and having set aside your time, having prioritized us, having stayed away from massive responsibilities, or at least your private time, and that we've called you here, and that which we promised, it's not going to happen. So at about right after 4:30 this afternoon, while we were doing our final prep work, my wife called me to say there's a call from the presidency. They can't reach me because my phone was off. And of course I stepped out to take the call. The call was from Ms. Diko, the spokesperson of the president, to advise us that unfortunately the president is no longer able to participate in the 29-19 Chairman's Conversation. She further advised that there's a draft statement that they are working on, which they would issue. Naturally, I was filled with disappointment, but to understand the reasons presented by the presidency. Now, it is important that we give you a full background of what emerged over the past 24 hours. In right about 8ish or so in the morning yesterday, I got a message from Ms. Kusela saying that deeply concerned about letters he had received from 2 NGOs objecting to his participation in the Chairman's Conversation. Now, this is preceded by an earlier call in the week from her to say she has overheard that there are some people who don't believe the president should participate. That was early this week. I promptly said, Kusela, there is civil society in South Africa. There are specific organizations and individuals who we expect they would object. I further on mentioned the names of individuals, not the organizations. So I said, it is expected. How did I know this? I knew this because last year when we hosted Mr. Rupert, 2 days before the Chairman's Conversation, the very same individuals and or organizations did write to Mr. Johan Rupert to say he should not be part of the Chairman's Conversation. So that's how I was able to say I expect it from these quarters. Now, the message from yesterday, at face value, I assumed that I was being alerted about what was coming on, and later on saw that there was a statement on Twitter essentially saying the president should not participate. That statement, we saw it published on Twitter yesterday. Yesterday. Now, the core of the statement was that the president should not participate because the host has got is, I don't want to call them verbatim, but that there are allegations of gender-based violence against Mr. Mkhari, and therefore, if the president participates, he would essentially be validating this place or this property or this organization or myself. Ms. Kusela said the president takes issues of gender very seriously. And I think the president has, certainly in recent times, been very consistent about issues of gender. So, therefore, he would like to know what is being done about the concerns that have been raised by these two NGOs. My response was, we are happy to be guided by the presidency on how indeed the questions that are out there, certainly from these two organizations, how we honorably, authentically, and honestly address them. Later that afternoon, I picked up a phone, and I called the presidency, and I said, even though we have less than 24 hours to go on air, I am willing to set aside time to meet with the presidency as well as the NGOs. Upon getting home, I said to Madam, I mentioned to you last week, early in the week, that this is what Kusela raised. So I'm going to meet with the NGOs and the presidency. My wife said, but there has never been a given Mkhari gender-based violence issue. We as a family proactively said in 2018, as normal human beings, we have gone through challenges on this particular day. The emotions went high, we are just human. And post the emotions, soberly, we both said to each other, but we can address these matters. We then further on issued a statement acknowledging that something had happened, and we have decided we would like to resolve our differences at home. That was a public statement. But almost naively, we assumed that when there's been an issue between husband and a wife, once they decide that they can resolve them, it is done. The authorities said no. You telling us that it is done is not enough. We, by virtue of who you are in society, we would like to take it a step further. We want to investigate you guys. Against that, I took a view to say, we run a very public business. I therefore would like to step out of work, and I will not work until the authorities have pronounced on their decisions. So I stayed at home for a month. My wife stayed at home for 3 weeks or so. But we need to provide. So, 4 or so weeks later, after whatever investigations the authorities were doing, they called us into a meeting, and they said the MPA has decided to withdraw charges against my wife, against myself, or either way. And what we then did thereafter was to spend a year or so focusing on the 3 most important people in our lives, our daughters, as well as focusing on each other, because we can't be the best parent if we're not good, if we're not right. So a lot of work went behind it. On a lighter note, it feels beautiful, personally. What we learned today from the meeting with the NGOs was that there's a step we missed, according to them, and the step was that our statement to address our personal matters at home was not sufficient. We needed to do a public pronouncement or gesture because we have wronged the public. Now, it is possible, because today I learned that we have a whole lot of other national responsibilities because we are national and public figures. Ladies and gentlemen, Ipile Mkari and Given Mkari are husband and wife and children, or parents of 3 children, first and foremost. So when I wake up and go to Houghton and she goes to Midrand, that is the preoccupation. We accept that the nature of work that you do, naturally or progressively, will put you onto the public platform, but that's not the relationship we have with ourselves. I don't wake up, think public. She doesn't wake up, think public. You wake up, think children, self, family, friends, colleagues, clients. But today, we understand that there are more expectations, even when it refers to our private lives. When we met with the NGOs, our statement to them was simple. We still believe that as human beings and as individuals, we have the right to privacy as a family and as individuals. We still believe that. That could be naive, but we believe we do. To the extent that we are not ignorant of the nature of work we do, we still communicated or acknowledged that something wrong had happened between us and asked friends, family, colleagues, the public, to accord us privacy. The NGOs were asked by Professor Sano in the presidency, who is the advisor of the president on Metasocial. So, what accountability would you like Mr. and Mrs. Mkari to provide that will satisfy you? They said that what will make them feel happy is if Mkari does not host the president in the chairman's conversation. That was their risk. In certain instances, it was called, that is our offer. When Ms. Kusela tried to assert that in this country there's a rule of law, how would the president or herself be able to justify, after the president accepted an invitation from power, knowing exactly who we are, exactly where we come from, how would she justify suddenly, a day or two to go, saying, you can't talk to the chairman's conversation on a property called the chairman's conversation with the chairman of the company, a property or an event that happens once a year? How does the president justify that? I don't want to quote, but how she was addressed to me was shocking, disrespectful, certainly to the office of the presidency and to the individual or professional that is Kusela. how she kept her cool and her grace, I admire that. She did. And I would like to submit, at the end of the meeting, the NGOs were very clear that what will make them happy is not me hosting the platform. Prof asked me, Mkari, is that an option? My response, actually before I responded, Mrs. Mkari said, that is about, because this meeting happened today, 3 hours. She said, that solution deals with an event today. Would accountability be reduced? Should accountability be reduced to an event? I then suggested that a desirable, sustainable engagement with us as a family, because we arrive as a family, is desirable. That's what we'll prefer. Now, therefore, I am unable to just pronounce on a solution without understanding or having a better appreciation of what we are solving for. If we as a family can be advised and oriented around what we are solving for, then we are able to come up with proposals, not directives, proposals on solving for that. The meeting ended with, we've heard you guys, the president will decide. After the meeting, we had further conversations with Ms. Diko, and she then asked about considering not to present. I said, I'm not a presenter. This is a conversation. Every day we run interviews. Let's not reduce it into that. The people who come here, the people who partner with us, the public that anticipates it in its totality. And they anticipate it, and as it happens, some applaud it, some criticize it, but at the end of the day, it is that platform that allows a nation to have tough conversations with itself in not a pretentious way, in an authentic way. That is why hands go up and all that stuff, and people comment as part of the conversation. I then suggested that I think the presidency should consider a communique that states, one, that the presidency met with Mr. and Mrs. Mkari, as well as the NGOs. The NGOs had expressed their concerns. The Mkaris did the same. And against that, which is part of what we offered, we're happy to work with, because part of what Billy said to them, Billy's madam, was that you pronounced last year around the chairman's conversation, 2 days before you do that, attacking my husband, therefore our family, but as gender activists, since July 2018, you didn't reach out to me. You have not tried to engage me. So what type of engagement is this that occurs annually 2 or 3 days prior to the chairman's conversation? And in which case today you pronounce what will make you happy is that Mkari doesn't host. I won't go into the type of responses. Anyway, we left the union buildings. We came back. We continue to prepare. As you can see, the room is ready. Everything is ready. That's why, please don't leave. We have lots of food and drinks for you. Please don't. And indeed, later on, Ms. Kusela called me again to say, brother, we want this thing to work. Would you consider, maybe, even though it's not ideal, that one of your team members host it? And I consulted Madam, I consulted a few colleagues, and we came to the conclusion to say, power, South Africa, the nation is more important than our dogmatic views on what the platform is about. For as long as the president honors a promise to come and talk to the nation via this platform with our partners, ENCA, Business Day TV, Capricorn, Power, etc. If the president does that, actually, let us do that. That was at about 1. Said, actually, let's do that. Then we had to quickly put together a plan. Who within our team will identify the person. Now we have to brief them, that person. Now we'll replace that person on air, and then da-da-da-da-da. Now we're ready to go. And what do they say in English? The rest is history. At about past 4 or so, we got a call to say, it's not happening. So, the president issued the statement. I encourage all of you to read it. The last thing I want to say, we are citizens of this beautiful country, as individuals and as an organization. We absolutely respect the decision of the presidency. We absolutely do. We also acknowledge that leading a country of about 58 people, 58, what did I say? Billion? Did I say 58? Small-minded people. 58 million people. Leading a country of 58 million people, it's no child's play. There are a whole lot of considerations and things at play that ordinary citizens like us may not appreciate, understand, or never be exposed to. And therefore, we fully respect and fully accept the decision of the leadership of our country. To the extent that we're a broadcasting medium, we will continue to do everything humanly possible within our means to ensure that this country succeeds. And that's all we're set up to do. We'll ensure we'll continue to do that. We will continue to be open to debating people's views about us as individuals and organizations, because the nature of our business is dialogue. We encourage dialogue, and we'll continue to engage. And I want to thank the efforts that I've seen made by the presidency to ensure that he honors the commitment he's made to us. I want to thank and maybe acknowledge people who, when they feel strongly about something, they do something about it. But I lastly want to say, over the past week or 2 or 3 or a year, Team Power, Team MSG, Mkari family, we are not aware of newfound developments that would justify us being treated differently. We are not aware. But it is possible that with time, we may come to be aware. We love this country, we love our people, and we're going to continue to serve, because ours is to serve. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this long, laborious story. But I think out of respect for you, a simple, it's no longer happening, I don't think will suffice. I'd like to thank my pillar of strength, my wife, who, while this has been more to do, is on a platform of power, a lot of it still goes back to our private lives. So, babe, no cancer. Guys, as I said, there's lots of food and lots of drinks. hi xichangana swakudya a swi lahliwi na byala a wa nyiki a swi nyiki swikwembu ivi u halata. So I encourage quite a few of you that I try to speak to as many people as possible, leading to the invitation to say, try to Uber, because we're going to have a party. And the best thing we can do for Team Power that put this thing to, can you give them a round of applause? Our logistics company, the communications firm, and the team at Power, the MSG Group sales team, you guys rock. Our partners who believed and committed money to this platform, you guys rock. Our partners, our funders who believe in what we're trying to build from the day we started, who today still stick with us. And when things are tough, we go to them, they listen and beat us up. And when things are nice, they celebrate with us. IDC team, NAF team. Ah, there you go. And number? Hello, the bosses from the IDC and the NAF. We deeply appreciate you. Thank you. And to everybody. Misema. Anumboni. Eh? Oh, okay, good. Okay. So, and most of it all, the love that we receive as individuals and as a collective, it's just so overwhelming. So thank you for believing. Let's continue to do good. How old is this one?
Evening, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, love. Thank you. You can see, please don't leave. Please, let's have a drink. And no one has an excuse to leave early because you were supposed to be here until 10:11. Stop watching. Ladies and gentlemen, respect. Thank you so much. Malusike Ghana, bro, you want to say something? Can you go and sit down? Okay, thanks, bro. Okay, bro. Thanks.
No. I just want to say again, because we can say this thing privately and so on. Having known Given from when he was at Metro FM, you as a moderately successful businessman, I just want to say that you remain an inspiration. I walked this chain a little bit with you when we were forming Power FM, Capricorn. I know the trial and tribulations that you've gone through, a business that is still growing and I believe going very far. Definitely will be the dominant media company in this country in our lifetime, because from an empowerment perspective, you represent our aspirations as we hopefully represent others in other fields that we're in. I have the fortune of your daughter being in the same class with my daughter. I've never seen more affirming and loving parents. Absolutely amazing. And we will always be behind you and will always hold you in a high regard. Thank you very much for the wonderful talk you gave. Thank you.